Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Light in the Battle. I'm Faustina, and I want to start this episode by thanking everybody who's been listening to my show. The statistics that I Googled about how podcasts perform in the first few weeks were very disheartening. I guess they were saying that you're supposed to hang in there and wait and give your audience time to find you. And my niche is extremely narrow. I'm speaking to women that are on the spectrum, are single mothers, parenting a child on the spectrum, recovering from narcissistic abuse, and are open to or practicing the Catholic faith. So I wasn't expecting any downloads or listens for many weeks. And yet, as it turns out, this podcast ranked number one on Good Pods in many different categories. We're talking small numbers, but still number one. Hello. So thank you very much, because the more you listen, and if you can even follow, leave comments, you know how this works. This means that with your help, I can reach more mothers that need to hear this content. And that's my only vision for this show at this time, is to share as broadly as I can the tips and tricks and the mindset shifts that have saved my life, pretty much. For this episode, we're going to be a little nerdy. We're going to talk about the chemical underlying phenomenons that happen in the brain that are the reason for our addiction to intensity, our addiction to chaos. So it's going to get a little technical. Buckle up. We're talking about something every survivor of narcissistic abuse deals with, really, especially autistic survivors. It's why we're addicted to intensity. Why the body sometimes craves the very things our minds say that we hate, the very things we ran away from, and how we can explain the trauma bond and why we will leave someone that we cognitively know is hurting us, is hurting our child, but then we might go back later because we're chemically addicted to that person. So this episode is going to be blunt, science-based, and occasionally funny, because I guess laughter is really the only way through the heavy crosses we're bearing. The first thing we're going to do is call it out. We're not crazy. We're chemically conditioned. We're talking about a chemical addiction in the brain. Because people are going to wonder, why do I keep ending up in chaos? Why do I keep dating the same type of man over and over? Why do I freak out when things are calm? Why does it feel wrong when nothing's happening? Like, why is it so boring when I'm not in chaos? If you're my target audience, yeah, I think all of us have been through this or are in this right now. And the unromantic scientific truth is that when you've lived in survival mode for a long time, some of us, this dates back to childhood, the way we were raised, and some of us, we married into toxicity and chaos. Our brains have literally rewired themselves to depend on stress hormones to feel normal. It's nuts. The baseline became cortisol, the stress hormone, adrenaline for alertness, oxytocin, that's bonded us, norepinephrine for vigilance. This is a chemical cocktail that was like our internal Wi-Fi, I guess. The chemical cocktail that we were running on, that we were functioning on, connecting with others through, because it's familiar, it's predictable, it feels like home, even if it's killing you slowly. The peace that you want, that you seek, that you say you're striving for, it's not just unfamiliar, it's chemically incompatible with your brain at first. It's messed up. The peace you want is chemically wrong to what's actually going on hormonally inside your brain. Your brain is going to read calm like, ooh, where's the threat? Why is it so quiet? Something's about to blow. That's the biology of your brain. You're not being dramatic. Your brain is flooded with all of that hormonal mess. And autistic women, you can multiply all of that by 10. because autistic nervous systems don't move on from danger. We catalog it, we index it. We have for those of you who are geeks or nerds like me, it's a Dewey Decimal System of trauma. Like you've got sections where you organize various parts of it, pieces of it. That's how the autistic brain deals with threat and danger. So when intensity is the pattern, the autistic brain goes, yes, order, familiarity, predictable chaos. Yay, this is good. This is what we want. That intensity becomes the structure. But the calm that we say we want, that's a mystery. And if there's one thing that our autistic brains hate more than noise and bad lighting, it's mystery. We don't want that calm and that peace in the beginning. So let's talk about the blunt neurochemical breakdown of that addiction. First of all, we said we've got the cortisol going on. You've got your chronic stress that you've been living in over the years, and that triggered chronic cortisol production. And the brain has adjusted so that high cortisol feels normal, with all the consequences that it has on your body. There's a book called When the Body Says No by Gabor Mate, and he talks about the consequences of chronic stress long-term on the body, and he suggests that there may be a correlation between all the degenerative diseases that we see in modern society and chronic stress and childhood trauma. So this is serious. This is not a joke. Chronically high cortisol levels will impact your health, your physical health too. And when we get out of that cortisol-inducing situation, the cortisol drops and the system panics. So super fun. Then we've got the dopamine. We think about dopamine, we think about fun and rewards. And the reality is the arguments and the chaos and the drama and the threats and the lies and the hypervigilance, all of that produces dopamine spikes. Not because it's fun, but because the brain releases dopamine anytime it anticipates a reward. And that could be resolving the crisis. That could be the reward that your brain is waiting for, hence releasing the dopamine. Except that the crisis never resolves. And your brain stays stuck in the dopamine chase, thinking that one day one of those crises is going to get resolved. And guess what? You're addicted. The next one, that's the devil in abusive relationships, is your oxytocin. Oxytocin, you've probably heard about this hormone called the love hormone. It bonds you to whoever you feel intimacy with or whoever makes you feel fear. Trauma plus intermittent affection is the glue. That's where the oxytocin kicks in. Your body literally attached to the person that was hurting you. It happens, you see it with hostages. We talk about the Stockholm syndrome. It happens to soldiers, happens to abuse survivors. We bond to the person that is the threat. So when you try to leave the relationship, your hormones scream like, I gotta go back. You're trauma bonded, and a lot of women make the sometimes deadly mistake of going back to their abuser. And that's because of that chemical addiction, because of that oxytocin-based bond. When we've got, the people that have never had to survive anything, never been through an abusive relationship, saying, why didn't she just leave? Why did it take so long for her to leave? It couldn't have been that bad if she stayed for so long. When I hear that, all I'm hearing is, I have no idea about what's going down in that woman's brain. I have no idea how addiction works and how these hormonal messages in the brain work. That's all I'm hearing when someone says, why doesn't she just leave? Couldn't have been that bad. Yeah, you clearly don't understand that this woman's brain was flooded with chemicals that bonded her to her abuser. She was addicted to the, I don't want to say the thrill, but the intensity and the chaos and the unpredictability. That's what's going on. And we need to understand it so we can stop shaming ourselves. We can start validating that addiction that we're feeling, it's real. None of you here are weak or crazy or weird for going back or wanting to go back to what you know cognitively could kill you. It's just chemicals in your brain. So I'm hoping, I'm a bit of a nerd myself, I'm hoping that this episode explaining to you the nitty-gritty of how it works will help you forgive yourselves, have compassion for yourselves, and maybe be better armed to go through the process of breaking that addiction. Please leave the show a 5-star review at this point. It will help me reach more women like us who need to hear this content. Next week, we will be talking about precise steps on how we can bring those hormone levels back down to normal levels so that we build little bridges from the chaos and the intensity that we're in now and that we miss over into the peace and quiet that we say we desire. Please keep in mind that I am not a professional of any kind. The information that I'm sharing here is stuff that I've learned through my own research on the internet. If anything resonates with you, please take that information over to a professional who will lead you as far as what to do with that information and how to help you. Take everything I say with a grain of salt, please, or do your own independent research, just like I did to produce this episode. Thank you for listening to episode 16A today. And as I always say, please take this life one day at a time. I'm hoping you now have more compassion for yourself for missing the person or for missing the situation. So you take it one day at a time. And next week we talk about how to get those levels back down. Thank you for being here today.